Hello, I'm back from my weekend away and I got to listen to some really interesting talks. I'm going to give you more information on these over the next few days. But for now, let me just give you the top highlights of a couple of things that I learned that I think will be really interesting. So the first one is I heard a talk from one of the guys who founded Human Givens. It's a psychotherapy approach or something. I'm not exactly sure what the best way to describe it because he was quite vocal about not liking certain terms, etc. So I wouldn't want to offend. However, the idea is that there are certain needs that are a given that we have in life, and it's the absence of those given needs that can cause us problems. So that kind of makes sense. So needs like feeling close to people, feeling challenged, those kind of things. The thing that I found really interesting about Human Givens is he talks a lot about dreams. And one of the things that I think would help a lot of you out there, because I certainly found it interesting, is when you've got emotionally charged stuff going on through the day that you haven't managed to process, then in that processing time through the night, your head processes those emotions and it puts them in all sorts of metaphors and contexts and all that sort of stuff. But essentially, those bad dreams that you have are your brain trying to process intense emotional stuff that you haven't worked through the day. The problem with that is that it increases the amount of REM sleep you have. And by increasing the amount of REM sleep, i.e. the sleep where you're dreaming, you don't get as much restful sleep, which means you get caught in this cycle of feeling tired and emotionally drained and not able to deal with the stuff that is emotionally draining you through the day. So essentially, the end result is to do the same as I do when I work with anybody, which is clear the thing out the way. And if we clear the thing out the way, then it doesn't translate into the dreams and you get a normal sleep. So that was Human Givens. The second thing I learned about was a thing called the three principles, which I've heard of as a very airy-fairy kind of concept. People struggle to explain it. And again, there were a couple of things I've got from this. I think I've mentioned in one of my other videos about how thoughts aren't real, but they feel really real. So the idea with the three principles is the first principle is about consciousness, and consciousness is basically the experience, the way we experience stuff. The second principle is that our thoughts define our experience, and this is the one that I found really fascinating. And the idea behind the three principles is that if you recognize that your thoughts define your experience, and you recognize that thoughts are not real, you can change your thoughts and change your experience. So, for example, if you're really scared of flying, you could say, well, it's okay to be scared of flying. The problem with it is that you go, I'm scared of flying because I'm going to crash, I'm going to die, it's all going to be terrible, I'll leave my family. And it's the because that becomes the problem. It's the thought that I'm scared that becomes an experience. So if you can kind of go, I'm scared, and that's okay, that's just a thought, and you recognize that you can't possibly hold on to the same thought for any length of time. Anybody who's tried mindfulness will know this. So your thoughts ebb and flow. So you have good thoughts, you have bad thoughts, and you kind of go between the two. So if you recognize that a thought isn't real, and when you're in a bad thought, you're going to be at a good thought again at some point, so it doesn't really mean anything. And you can go, it's okay to be scared because at some point this thought will pass, it doesn't mean anything. Then you have the ability to take cognitive control of your thoughts and move on from any problem. Again, love the theory. Most clients I come to do not have cognitive function to be able to take control of their thoughts. However, when I work with them, I get them to the point where they can. And then they have to break habitual thoughts rather than trigger-based thoughts. So actually, I love the three principles. I think it'll fit in really nicely with some of the stuff I do. And watch this space, because it's one of the things that I'm looking at is, because I see my clients for 2 to 3 sessions, how can I support them after the end of the second or third session? Because at the moment it feels a little bit like, is that it? And I've walked them to the edge of the cliff, given them a kick up the bum and said, it's okay, you can fly. And they're going, no, I can't. So I need to do a little bit more to help you fly. So those are my thoughts. Those are the big things I took out of the weekend. There was also a talk from a guy who does lots of research on willpower, where basically he agreed with everything that I've got in my willpower app and that I've written about on willpower, and had lots of research to back it up. So my plan is to send in my book and ask him if I can get copies of his research, because I think that would be really fascinating to share as well.